The amount of time we would save if everybody on Earth just listened to Maintenance Phase.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to Maintenance Phase, the podcast that is morbidly too long. The podcast that won't charge you extra if you're fat or disabled to have a job.
Imagine one day you get into an argument with one of your plus-size friends because they want you to acknowledge how much harder life is for them because they are fat and you are not. And then the next thing you know, your friend has built an entire career and brand off of this argument. This is the actual story of your fat friend.
I'm Aubrey Gordon.
Aubrey Gordon is basically a fat acceptance celebrity. She is a best-selling author, blogger, and a podcaster. But if you listen to people talk about her, you would get the impression that she is also part God.
Your fat friend, Aubrey Gordon, the Messiah.
I want to thank you, Aubrey. You are my hero. I just adore you. If you don't know her, go look her up immediately.
So if you don't know who Aubrey Gordon is, she's awesome.
I love Aubrey Gordon.
She has written 2 books so far. I have not read them, but some people think that they should be considered reference material for our healthcare workers.
If you're in the healthcare industry, you should definitely check this out. Because did y'all know in 1998, they changed the BMI index? Like, in 1997, what was once a healthy weight in 1998 became considered overweight or even obese. That's just bonkers.
If you are already getting the usual fat acceptance vibes, you are correct. Aubrey's work looks like all the usual FA TikTok we watch together on this channel, and I'm pretty sure her book titled You Just Need to Lose Weight and 19 Other Myths About Fat People is not going to be the text that unravels all of the medical training by our healthcare professionals. Our main focus for today is going to be her podcast, Maintenance Phase, which she co-hosts with Michael Hobb.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to Maintenance Phase, the podcast that's just concerned about your health.
Oh my God.
It's a joke because they're not really concerned at all. Health and wellness debunks are the main focus on Maintenance Phase, and I am using the word debunk really loosely right now. I cannot understand how they established themselves as being some kind of scientific authorities, but the fact that they have furthers my belief that anything is possible.
Anything is possible.
This podcast also gets spoken about like it is a gift straight from the heavens.
What is Maintenance Phase? I am so sorry for those of you who have not experienced the holiness.
This podcast is everything to me. It is elite, top tier. There is not one bad episode.
To listen to Maintenance Phase, the podcast. So good. It's so good.
Listen to this podcast. It is excellent about diet culture and science and real facts behind all this stuff, the garbage that we've been told. You don't have to be fat to appreciate this podcast.
The amount of time we would save if everybody on Earth just listened to Maintenance Phase.
All over social media, you will see comments like, I live and breathe Maintenance Phase. Words cannot express how much I love this podcast. It feels illegal that it is not forced listening for the entire population.
But truly, I'm not being like over dramatic when I say that almost every single episode has changed me.
I'm not trying to be mean, but I think the kind of person whose whole worldviews can be changed after a 40-minute podcast are the exact kinds of people who would interpret Aubrey and Michael's work as being scientific.
If you want your mind blown, the episode on BMI will shake you to your core.
Not if you're actually paying attention. Actually, to be fair, I was a bit shaken up by this little quote.
They'll be like, oh yeah, BMI for black people just like doesn't work. Like some of them will be like up to like BMI of 35. So you can weigh like 280 pounds if you're black and like not have any of these mortality statistics. But some of them have also found that like it just doesn't fucking matter for black people at all.
I don't know why they don't get called out more for this crap. Instead, their audience treats them like they should be educating our doctors.
That people have said, okay, I know you made this whole, 3-hour arc about the BMI and the obesity epidemic, but can you give me 5 pages that I can hand to my doctor?
Yeah.
Imagine spending all that time in med school just to have patients out here trying to educate you with their favorite podcast. Kind of ironically, Aubrey's work has been described by one of her admirers as a good lesson in being a pain in the butt.
I found it a fantastic education in being a pain in the butt.
Kind of funny to me that that is a compliment, but fair enough. Before we dig any deeper, I want to remind us all how this started, and we will let Aubrey tell us for herself.
It's so interesting to me. It started with an argument with a friend. Will you tell me more about that?
We were talking about sort of what it was like to be fat and what it was like to be thin. I am fat, she is thin, and we just didn't see eye to eye. So I wrote her a letter because I felt like maybe writing it out would be an easier way of sort of explaining to her that, like, no, there really are material differences between the ways that fat people are treated and the ways that people who are not fat are treated, right? Yeah, so I sent it to a friend to proofread, mostly just because I was like, am I being a total jerk? And he said it was really helpful and asked if I would be willing to post it somewhere. So I found Medium, where anyone can post just about anything, and posted it there under the name Your Fat Friend.
The letter was titled, "A Request from Your Fat Friend, What I Need When We Talk About Bodies." The first line is, "I need you to listen closely. I need you to believe me when I tell you what happened." I'm not going to read the whole letter, but some of the highlights are, "I need you to say the word fat about me, because I am. I am a size 26.
Just say fat. Not curvy or chubby or chunky or fluffy or more to love or big guy or full-figured or big-boned or queen size or husky or obese or overweight. Just say fat."
I need you to acknowledge that you and I have different experiences because I am fat. I need you to try to learn to love the lush overgrowth of your body. Let it grow wild and untamed as a garden you loved as a child. I need you to try to love it if you intend to love me. I need you to know that I'm taking it personally because it is personal. I think it matters that she started this way because this need for victimhood and need for everyone else to change is basically her brand at this point. The call to action is always for someone else, not Aubrey.
Gordon, the star of Your Fat Friend, for our Tiny Mic interview.
I found this short interview she gave, and one of the questions she got asked was, if you could talk to your younger self right now, what would you say? Her answer kind of blew me away.
I don't know that I would talk to my younger self. I feel like I would talk to the adults that my younger self dealt with, and I would have some messages for them. Yeah. I feel like it all came out in the wash for me. I got no messages for young me because I feel pretty good about where we landed, you know?
That interview question gets asked all the time. I have heard hundreds of answers to that question, but never that answer. That alone just says so much to me about who we are dealing with here. And the other half of how this all started was sort of Aubrey versus thin people or thinness. And this also shows up in her books and her podcast.
From What We Don't Talk About When We Talk About Fat by Aubrey Gordon. Thin people, especially thin women, expect fat people like me to act as midwives for their confidence. How do you do it? Teach me your ways. We are the hired help who never ask for the job and are certainly not paid for it. We are reminders of what could be. Thinner people embrace fatter people as a way of finding their relative virtue. At least I'm not that fat. Thinness takes from all of us.
I am sorry, but that just sounds bizarre to me. I have never thought of anyone as a midwife for my confidence, whatever that even means. I am not going to deny that Aubrey has probably had some bad experiences that are unique to her size.
As a fat person, you figure out how to disappear yourself. That's the only way I have existed in the world.
I will probably end up watching this movie, and I have no doubt that there is probably a compelling narrative in regards to the unnecessary harassment that she has faced and that people like her face. But the crux of all of this for me is you don't get to leverage your status as a victim into misinforming people with a pretty large platform. I start losing sympathy when I hear her making light of obesity to her audience.
In other words, obesity was a disease. Dun, dun, dun.
Obesity is like this big inside joke between her and her co-host and the universe that they have cultivated. He is actually on record as saying that he doesn't even believe in obesity.
Every time I say a BMI number, I just like cringe inside. Also, every time I say like obese, I also cringe. Like, I hope that it's clear from my general tone and personality that I'm putting giant quote marks around these terms at all times.
Yeah.
Normal weight, Like, I don't believe in these things, but it's just going to be much easier if I don't have to say quote unquote every single time I use one of these adjectives.
And that's bad enough in my opinion. But then it gets worse for me when the same sort of condescending, flippant attitude is applied to talking about childhood obesity.
So now we're not only in an epidemic, we're also in a war.
Oh, yeah.
The war on childhood obesity. Very chill to make this rhetorical device of child soldiers who are fat kids who have had it too good for too long. Famously.
This is also where we get into some good classic moral panic stuff about needing to think of the children.
Children who have had it too good for too long. Nobody is getting that impression from us trying to end childhood obesity, which is on the rise and is creating serious health issues for these kids. One of the only positive things that they had to say about defining obesity as a disease is that it removes agency from individuals.
Dietz, however, held a view that was becoming more prevalent within medicine, that obesity was a condition influenced by the environment and a condition that people passively experienced, something that happened to them rather than simply the result of their own choices. It sounds like they really were, on some level, doing this in good faith, thinking that the term disease takes agency away from the individual.
It is really just kind of wild to me how many people feel empowered by disempowerment in this space. There is a big difference in addressing scammy BS in the wellness industry, things like Goop by Gwyneth Paltrow, and attempting to discredit legitimate medical research. But on Maintenance Phase, everything is the same conspiracy.
Welcome to Maintenance Phase, the podcast in which we take something you thought was benign and in 45 to 60 minutes radicalize you against capitalism. I told you it was capitalism. Of course it was capitalism. Capitalism ruins everything.
That is supposed to be a compliment from one of their fans. And I think this is actually a tragic bit of the magic of Maintenance Phase. They are able to convince people they know what they're talking about, even when they don't, because they have created a universe where Fin is the same scam as your doctor using a BMI chart. It's BS.
They are sort of dismantling and unpicking some of these things that we truly believe about health and wellness and showing how it's built on like a super dodgy foundation or like no foundation whatsoever. They're building fantastic arguments through critique.
They are just using flawed reasoning to lead you to the conclusions that they want to lead you to.
One of the weirdest statistics I came across is that people with master's degrees have 10% higher mortality rates than people with PhDs.
What?
So next time you see somebody posting about like, hey, I got my master's degree on Instagram, go into their mentions like, you're glorifying having a master's degree.
I'm just concerned about your health.
I know.
Quit your master's program.
That was them pulling out a single statistic they found about people with master's degrees as part of their case for discrediting the idea of glorifying obesity.
Glorifying something means publicly praising it.
Right.
I would love if we publicly praised some fat people some more.
That is not compelling. That's not building an argument. It is all flash and no substance.
I always feel a little bit weird about debunking the health stuff on this podcast because it's so obvious that the health stuff is a cover for people's feelings, right? Because even if it was 100% true, every single fat person is unhealthy. Fine. Everyone, regardless of their health status, gets to post a photo on Instagram and be like, I felt cute.
Yeah.
Getting to post that you feel cute on Instagram versus avoiding mobility issues, diabetes, hypertension, or a number of other weight-related issues. Which one sounds like the real prize for being properly educated on the potential consequences of obesity?
It's true that very fat people have shorter lifespans than thin people. But that correlation, that statement that very fat people are more likely to get heart disease and diabetes and everything you've read about in a million Newsweek articles, that's never really been debated.
They are debating this. They debate this all the time on their podcast. They even have an episode titled, Is Being Fat Bad for You? And Aubrey has identified herself as being over 300 pounds, yet Even when she acknowledges her body size as being in the category with the highest associations to health complications, she still tries to mystify it.
But at this point, it's not like an overwhelming majority of Americans, right, who are in the high health risk category. Right. I'm in that portion of the population. Other fat people are in that portion of the population.
Right.
And even in that high health risk category, we don't totally know what's going on.
Right.
Everything is so mysterious, and we don't know what's causing what or how we're getting where.
Nobody knows why either of those things are happening. Fat people could be fat because of leptin, because of insulin insensitivity, because of the built environment, because of genetics or epigenetics. This is what they call multifactorial.
But then she will just confidently assert that telling someone to lose weight actually causes them to get fatter.
They don't actually need to be told for the 10 billionth time, lose weight, because that doesn't fucking work.
Well, it does do one thing, which is it makes us fatter.
It's really just mind-blowing that this is the podcast that people think needs to be shared with their doctors. Aubrey is an activist and a professional victim. She is not an authority on health or wellness, and treating her like one doesn't seem very prudent for anyone interested in actually being healthy. She has even written a little think piece titled, "We have to stop thinking of being healthy as being morally better. This isn't making the world a better place. I'm sorry." I am really curious to know what you think, because all of TikTok and social media seems to adore Aubrey and the Maintenance Phase podcast. I kind of felt like a crazy person for not understanding the holiness.
The holiness.
But TikTok will make a celebrity out of almost anybody, so I am definitely interested in reading some outside opinion. Thank you for making it all the way to the end. If you are still here with me, please like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video. I will have another one up soon. Everybody take care until then.